Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you are in the world, and welcome to another LinkedIn Live with myself, Colin Shaw. And I'm really pleased to invite today Chip. I always worry, Chip, that I point in the wrong direction. And if I turn around and say Chip, everyone will be going, well, where is he? I can't see him. But we have with us Chip Bell. And for those of you, well, if you don't know Chip Bell, then I don't know where you've been. So Chip, do you want to spend a few minutes sort of introducing yourself?
Oh, I'll be delighted to. I would be. It's an honor to be with you, Colin. Thank you for again. We were together not that long ago.
Absolutely.
And, I appreciate the opportunity to come back to your show. My work focuses on customer loyalty, specifically on innovative service, helping organizations focus on what I call value unique, not value added. Value added is simply taking what customers expect and adding more. That's great. That's very generous. The problem is you can quickly run out of room. I focus on value unique. That is, what do you do to create experiences that create a story people are eager to share? That's something that's out of the ordinary, something that's unique, and something that's ingenious. And so I've been doing this for a good while, so I'm still learning. Yeah.
So as we go through this, as usual, if you let us know where you're from,
Sure.
It always amazes me to where the audience.
I live on beautiful Lake Oconee, and I'm sure everybody in the world knows where that is. But it is, it's about 90 miles in an office out of my home, like many of us. That's particularly irrelevant now.
Right.
It's about 90 miles east of Atlanta. So I fly in and out of Atlanta. I was in Dallas, Texas for years, and now I live the last 14 years near Atlanta, Georgia.
Great.
Probably tell from my accent, I didn't grow up in New York.
No, and you certainly didn't grow up in England.
No.
But so as we go through this, everybody out there, just if you get any questions of myself or Chip, let us know where you are. Let's try and see if we can get some interaction going. It looks like we've got a number of people. Anna. Hi, Anna. We've got a number of people dialing in. And my usual apologies for getting the pronunciation of people's names wrong. But we got Duji from Turkey and Barad from Morocco, Charlotte from Sweden, Anhol from Alicante. So getting people coming in from all over the place as well. We're here to talk today about Chip's new book. Which is called Inside Your Customer's Imagination. And there are 5 secrets. And I hope that I'm going to be able to persuade Chip into telling us a few of these.
Sure, secrets. I will. I'll be delighted to share them with you. If you all promise you won't tell anybody.
Absolutely. Won't tell anybody, but other than the 50 million people watching.
Right.
I wish it was 50 million, but it's probably not. But interesting, when we're just about to start this session, I turned around to Chip and said, how many books have you written, Chip? Thinking he's probably written about 5 or 6 or something like that. And what was your reply, Chip?
I've written more books than I've read. This is my 24th.
24th. There you go. 24th. I thought I was doing well. I've written 7. I thought I was doing well.
It means I'm on a lot of airplanes like you are. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's where we do a lot of our work.
Yeah. So Chip, maybe you can explain sort of the premise of the book. Why, after writing 23 books, did you think I've definitely got to write another one? And what's it about?
Sure. Okay. Great. Well, as we all know, organizations have to innovate to survive. And if you look at what most organizations do when they're trying to create a new product or a new service or a new solution, many of them turn to their research and development department, or they go do best practices with other organizations, or they have innovation centers or a variety of things like that. And I thought for many years they've been overlooking one of the most important resources, and that is their customers. And so it's all about how do you co-create with your customers, not just on behalf of your customers. And so the challenge is, and that's why I titled it "Inside Your Customer's Imagination." The challenge is that imagination for all of us is something housed kind of on the inside, and I think of it as a door only open from the inside. And so, how do you build a kind of relationship with your customers so they will open that door and invite you into all of their crazy, wild, half-baked ideas that could be the basis of a new product, a new service, or a new solution? One of the premises behind it is in most of our work, and I know your books and mine as well, we focus on understanding your customers, understanding their needs and expectations. This one focuses on and also understand their hopes and aspirations, because
Right.
the newness, the innovation is going to come from that angle, not just what I need and require right now.
So I noticed in the book that one of the things that you talked about, which I thought was interesting, was that this is sort of another step forward from customer centricity.
Yes.
So it's the sort of the next layer. Can you talk about that?
It is like another layer, and because one of the byproducts of it is if you're working with a customer in a way that they have skin in the game, not only are you tapping a new resource perhaps, or a new angle, or a new perspective, but in the process you are also building a deep sense of loyalty. We all know the adage, people care when they share. And so how I involve that customer so they get their fingerprints on that particular offering deepens their loyalty. And they have a sense of ownership that comes along with it. I'll give you a fun example.
Yeah.
I have as a liquor store not far from me. I go once in a while, Colin, just once in a while. But my good friend Matt runs the place, and he decided he wanted to have his own signature brand of bourbon. Now, I'm a Jack Daniel's drinker. I'm not a big bourbon fan, but he wanted to have his own brand, and so he contacted a Kentucky brewery, and they came up with 5 different flavors of bourbon and sent him for him to pick. Well, what did he do? He invited all his customers to come in and taste test the 5 ones, and whichever one they chose, it was the one he was going to offer. Well, they come in these, he's a barrel, which means there's many bottles. He sold out in 3 days.
Wow.
And he sold out because people felt like, I helped make this. People who don't even drink bourbon would buy it for a gift to other people because I helped make it. Well, he's on his 5th brand.
Wow.
It's been that successful, all by saying, let's find ways to get the customer to help us co-create a new product. So it's that kind of example and the aftermath of that deep loyalty that people would buy more and more and more because, I helped make it. Yeah,
no, absolutely. Let me just do a few name checks of we've got a number of people that have been joining us. And again, my apologies for mispronouncing your name as I'm about to do. Hugo from Argentina, Juan from Colombia. We've got Imran from the Ivory Coast. We've got Mohammed from Guinea, living in Lithuania. Today we seem to be getting people from all over the place. Neilran from India. Gerard from Venezuela, Mauro from Brazil, Vijay from India. If you get any questions as we go through, and we're going to have a chat with Chip about the book a bit further, but if you get any questions that you want to fire at Chip or me, then obviously feel free to do so. So Chip, one of the things I was thinking is that there were 2 things. I always remember that I think Lego were a good example of establishing customer communities.
Sure.
So, effectively you get the customer, and I'm checking that this is
they're a great example of an organization that said, why don't we involve the customer in our design, in our new approaches. So a whole variety of ways they involve the customer, and they're a good example because they not only got the customer involved in the product and in the creation of the product or the embellishment of the product. We all know Lego, but also they got them involved in the marketing side as well, even to the point where they included them in how they were a pricing strategy. And so here again, I think it's the concept of let's not just do it on behalf of the customer. Let's find a way to do it with the customer and see if we can't make that process work in a way that they willingly feel secure enough in that relationship. They want to share their creativity and their innovation.
So how is this different then to customer research? Just trying to be provocative.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think obviously customer research is important, but I think this takes it to a much deeper level. Customer research, again, you tend to typically focus on their needs and expectations. But let me give you an example of how you might take it deeper. So my wife's hairdresser, Johnny Adair, is very popular, and so he wants to know about women and their experience of getting a permanent. Well, traditional customer research would say, well, then you need to probably do some interviews, and you probably need to ask folks about their experience, and you ask them for their ideas about how to do that differently. What can we offer differently? You obviously want to know some about their demographics. Do certain people of certain ages or geography choose differently, etc. What did Johnny do? Johnny got a permanent.
Right.
And I asked Johnny, I said, why did you do that? And he said, well, it's one of the most awkward, embarrassing times for a woman. And I know if I could just go be the customer and actually experience I'm going to see the world like they see the world. Not my belief about how they see the world.
Yeah.
And not just echoing their opinion of their experience, but I'd actually feel it. I invite people all the time, call your own office and disguise your voice and ask for something out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
It's not a kind of stuff. So I think market research is critical and important, but when we take it to a much deeper level, when you work to be the customer is an example how we do that. So.
Sure. And I would imagine in this collaboration mode that, one of the things we talk about is actually, let me take a step back. There's a big difference between what customers tell you and what they do.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, customers tell you one thing, but actually mean something else. Yeah. So I presume in this collaboration and getting much more closer to them, you can understand their true behavior and their true motivations rather than just taking it at the surface level that a survey would do.
Yeah, there was some great research on what are the features that that would cause you to change physicians, and obviously the quality of the care they provided ranked number one when you ask patients that. But when you look at why they actually change physicians, what you learned is the bedside manner wound up being the top, and quality of care was sort of at the bottom. It's sort of like the airline industry. If you ask people what's the most important feature of an airline, they'd say safety. But if you ask them why they picked British Air over Lufthansa, safety won't be even in the top 10. They just say that's a given. Of course, that's important, but it's different things that cause them. So it's the difference between what's a priority and what is a driver of loyalty.
Sure.
At the end of the day.
So I know that in the book you're talking about 5 secrets. Can you share a couple of secrets? It always seems a bit funny, doesn't it? Can you share some secrets? But
I'll be glad to. I will make everybody an insider now.
Absolutely.
When I realized that the goal was to understand the innovation process as it related to customers, I thought, well, let me look at organizations that we know of that are really, really renowned in the kind of innovation. We can all think of, Google, obviously, Amazon, you can name your list of Pixar, whomever, that are organizations that are gaining all the patents, coming out with cutting edge products and so forth. And if you go inside their cultures, most of them have had books written about them, and say, oh, what's characteristic of an innovative culture, a culture renowned for innovation? And what I found was that there were certain things you could count on. They had a great sense of curiosity. They had a solid grounding in what they were focused on, what they were trying to achieve. They didn't follow down rabbit holes that were irrelevant. They were all about the kind of risk taking that resulted in discovery. They were a trustful environment. People trusted them. And they were passionate about what they did. And
right.
So those are the 5 secrets that not only apply, obviously, to a culture of innovation, but also apply to a relationship of innovation, one that is with your customers. And so that's kind of the 5 secrets. Is obviously their application is a little bit different when you're talking about a relationship versus a culture. But nevertheless, that's what I built it around. Those 5 things: curiosity, grounding, discovery, trust, and passion.
And where do you think, I mean, one of the challenges I think that businesses have today is around, just when you talk about sort of an innovations culture, you know, too many businesses seem to be so risk averse.
Yes.
And they just seem to not want to experiment, you know, and I encourage people to experiment all the time, knowing that, you know, if something goes wrong, then okay, it's failed, but at least we know it's failed.
Right.
What's your thoughts around that sort of innovation culture then?
Well, I think part of it is the fact that the way their metrics are set up, too many times, and the stakeholders they're focused on, they're worried about this quarter. Obviously, an innovation approach takes a long haul.
Yeah.
An innovation approach is one that's more tolerant of risk. You know, Jeff Bezos at Amazon talks about how many millions of dollars they lose every year with experiments they try that don't work out. You know, but he's got a board of directors that apparently have given him the wide berth to say you can lose some millions, and most organizations don't have that kind of patience or tolerance from their stakeholders. And so they tend to focus more on the short term, more on the certainty within their applications and how they go to market. And so I think it creates an environment of caution. More than that, it creates an environment of control. And we all know if your goal is to try to create more intuition and resolve how we use our intuition, how do we use our ingenuity, I've got to be willing to let the reins go and not be so high control in how to do that. So I think that would be, to me, one of the biggest reasons why organizations tend to be risk averse is, well, what if I make a mistake? Well, you'd be learning. You'd be learning.
Yeah, sure.
Let's bet on something for sure. You know, let's get back. You know, we still need more buggy whips. And so, you know, Henry Ford said, you know, if I gave customers exactly what they wanted, they'd be faster horses. You know.
Yes.
Here again, it's, you know.
Yeah. The example I always use as well is just the iPhone. You know, you looked at the mobile marketplace and you looked at, you know, Nokia, you know, had, I don't know, 50% of the mobile marketplace, and then suddenly something comes along that just turns left field, and suddenly the market's off in a different way.
Exactly.
Let me again say hello to a few people. Ismail from Algeria, Laura from Bedfordshire in England. That's Laura. That's not far from where I am. And I was telling Chip earlier today that we actually had an earthquake in England, which is unheard of. You know what? 2020 is turning out to be such a great year, isn't it?
Yeah. One we'll remember for sure.
Yeah, earthquake in England and everything else. We have Ismail from Algeria. I think I've mentioned that. We have Anna from Portugal. So everyone dialing in from all over the place. I've not seen so much stuff. Rami from Israel. Thank you, Rami, and thank you for your kind comments. And Bana from Cameroon. So if you're going to work in an organization, how do you sort of present this stuff? I mean, you know, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, no one would dispute that innovation's a good thing.
Right.
But the challenge becomes, how do you do it? So and it's all right. Everyone go, I've got an idea. Let's go.
Yeah, I think it starts with being clear about what I call grounding in the book. It is being clear about what you're about, and being clear about the boundaries. There even within the most innovative organizations, there's certain boundaries, and the boundaries are, I want to find that great intersection between what is important to my customer, what their hopes and aspirations are, and what fits my distinctive competence. Customers may say, I want X, and you go, we don't do X. That doesn't fit with our mission, and we need to make sure we stay within the appropriate boundaries to make sure that's a proper fit. And so I think that's and then how we go about solving the problems or approaching the issues that are solidly grounded around that intersection.
Right.
And so that's to me that's and you ask, how do you do it? How do I do it in an organization? Well, particularly if you're an organization that is known for being highly bureaucratic or kind of old school or high control, et cetera, then that would suggest you probably start smaller, not grand, that you focus on pilots, not just like let's go full bolt around the entire organization, that you start, growing many small wins to build a certain momentum, and you learn from it. You position them. I call the whole section on secret discovery is really about risk taking, but risk taking crafted and around discovery. And discovery is a good word. Everybody loves discovery. Oh, look what we found. Well, in the process, you're taking risks. Discovery is a learning word. Risk taking is a scary word. And so when you begin to reframe risk taking around, well, what do we learn? How can we learn? So if I were an organization that was tended toward the more conservative bureaucratic side, not the, freewheeling, swashbuckling style, I would say, what can we learn with this pilot?
Sure.
Granted, there's risk, but you're taking casting it in a little different light.
So I remember, Chip, a number of years ago now, I remember I was doing a workshop with a client, a utility client. And I was standing up the front, about 20 people in the room, talking about customer experience stuff and everything else. And this, and effectively introducing the concept, right?
Right.
And I will get to a question. I was introducing the concept of this. And as I was introducing this concept, this young lady was sitting there. She'd been with a company for about 6 months. And she was going, oh, that's a really good idea. What about if we did this? And what about if we did that? And everyone that was sat around her were going, yeah, we tried that 5 years ago and it didn't work. Yeah, we've tried that, 7 years ago and we had these problems. And it was like the culture. There were so many ideas coming out from her. And it was like everyone was sort of, get back in your box and don't come up with these ideas. And there are too many organizations that are still like that, that don't think wider. Right? And sorry to go on about this, but if you think of the Blockbusters and the Netflix, and you think of Kodaks and all those, how do you overcome that?
Well, I think obviously what you're raising is a cultural issue and a leadership issue. As I think about the individual that was trying to say, what about this? We tried that 7 years ago. But the problem is it might have been inappropriate or truly a prescription for failure 7 years ago, and it might work now.
Yes, I agree. So
part of it is our continually saying, let's try that again. Let's try it again. Let's see. It's different. And I tell people all the time, I've had folks just like you, when I do keynotes, they come up and say, you won't believe the organization I'm in. It does this and this and this. What have you tried? I've done this and this and this. And they still won't listen to me. And I go, then leave.
Yes.
It's your life. You've done all you can to help that organization be successful, and they refuse. It may not be the place for you. It's sort of like being in a bad marriage and you've tried to go to years of marriage counseling and it's still not working. Get out. And so
no, I agree.
I would say, but again, those kind of systemic features of a culture that's all about not invented here, we can't do that, we've tried it, is a factor of the culture. It's not an innovative culture. And again, we start, say, well, you're probably right, but you know what? Let me try it. Let me try it that way. Let me take a little piece here and try it. We'll see how it works. You may be right, and we'll prove that you're right again. It didn't work, but I want the opportunity to try it. And so again, that's why I say start with small wins, small pilots, build success, and it grows.
Yeah, no, I entirely agree. I remember when we were doing some work with an insurance company, the other thing about this collaboration thing that you're talking about within the book was it's really surprising that sometimes in fact, let me take a step back. Sometimes with something like the iPhone, most of that technology was there. A touch screen on your phone was there. Jobs didn't invent it. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is it was the right time and the combination of things that made it the right time. So they could have tried it 7 years ago.
The magic
now suddenly, now suddenly pulling it together is the thing. Wow. And I think the bit on the collaboration piece that the book's about, I think is important, is I always remember we're doing a sort of a journey mapping workshop, and we got people to come up and put ideas up of what they should do to improve their experience. And what surprised me was how many people get really interested in how their idea's doing. In other words, I had this idea and it was this, and oh great, okay. As that got through the next round of which ones we're going to go with, because they're really quite proud that it's their idea. And
absolutely, people care when they share.
Yeah. It was in fact another little anecdote that I've found fascinating. Have you ever been into a Lush store?
No.
Okay, Lush. They're a UK company, but are in the States, and they sell handmade soaps and shampoos and different things like that. But one of the things they do is on their bottles, they draw cartoons of the person, the employee that's made it.
Okay? Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. And obviously to get some pride from the employee. Right. But it was interesting. I was in this store looking at doing some work there. And this customer had come in and she was saying, and she was looking through all of these different bottles. And I said, what do you do? She was looking for a bottle that had been made by a certain person.
Oh,
I've met him before. Yeah, but
that's personalization at its finest.
Well, and that's it. And you think you would never sit and if you just sat in a room with a group of people from that company, you would have never thought that. But getting to your point, getting the customer involved in it is absolutely the
absolutely.
So last couple of questions. In fact, whilst you're answering this, I'm going to check to see if there are any questions. If anybody has any questions, then please feel free to ask them. But tell us a bit about the book. Where can we get it? Where can people get it? What's the website and all the rest of it?
It launches today. September 8th is when it launches. So it's available anywhere you'd buy books. Barnes and Noble in the States, Porch Books, Amazon, all of the usual characters. It would be available there. So it's in hardback and audio and Kindle.
Wonderful. And it's called Inside Your Customer's Imagination.
And the subtitle is 5 Secrets to Creating Breakthrough Products, Services, and Solutions.
Wonderful. Well, who doesn't want to create breakthrough products, services, and solutions?
That's great. I hope all those people buy a book.
Absolutely. So let's just check to see if there's any questions. Don't seem to have any questions. So all that's left for me to do is to thank you very much, Chip, for being on the show today. Been great catching up with you again.
You too. Thanks. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely, and look forward to talking to you again shortly. See you.
Maybe with my next book.
You never know. Your 25th. We'll have to have a celebration if it's 25.
Thank you so much.